Inside Los Angeles, America's homelessness capital. It was 5:45 a.m. in downtown Los Angeles. The early sun cast gold light over cracked sidewalks, graffitied underpasses, and the endless rows of tents that lined Skid Row. Amidst the bustle of the waking city, 52-year-old Marcus Green stirred awake beneath a frayed blue tarp off 5th Street. Once a construction worker, Marcus had lived on the streets for nearly 5 years, ever since his company shut down and a medical emergency drained his savings. All around him, nearly 75,000 other souls in Los Angeles County were facing the same brutal truth. They had no place to call home. This city, glamorous, sun-soaked LA, had quietly become America's homelessness capital. Movie stars lived in the Hollywood Hills, while just a few miles away, veterans, single mothers, teenagers, and the elderly survived on handouts, old blankets, and fading hope. Marcus hadn't always lived like this. In 2005, he was a rising star in a construction firm that specialized in sustainable housing. He earned enough to support his wife and daughter, rented a decent home in Pasadena, and even dreamed of opening his own company. But when the 2008 financial crisis hit, his firm went bankrupt. Jobs became rare, and Marcus took what he could find: gig work, odd jobs, manual labor. Then came the diagnosis: a heart condition that required surgery. With no insurance, the bills mounted. His wife left. His daughter moved to another state. Eventually, he couldn't keep up with rent. Now, his life was contained in a shopping cart. But Marcus was more than a statistic. He organized community watch shifts around his camp to protect women and children. He volunteered at the nearby Union Rescue Mission, helping distribute hot meals and share advice on navigating the shelter system. "I used to build houses," he'd say bitterly. "Now I build tents for people with no roofs." The reality was stark. Los Angeles spent over $1 billion annually on homelessness initiatives, yet the problem only grew. Rents continued to soar, housing construction couldn't keep up, and many policies, though well-intentioned, were too slow, too tangled in bureaucracy. Encampments sprawled across Venice Beach, Echo Park, under the 101 freeway, and in alleys of Koreatown. Fires sometimes broke out due to unsafe heating methods. Drug use and mental health issues added new layers to the crisis. Local businesses complained. Tourists turned away. Politicians argued. Yet the people suffering the most were the ones like Marcus, caught between systems. In this version of Los Angeles, something finally shifted. A young city councilwoman, Sofia Delgado, once homeless herself after fleeing domestic violence, proposed a radical new program called Project New Ground. It wasn't just about shelters, it was about rehabilitation, mental health, job training, and guaranteed housing. Her plan faced resistance. Critics called it expensive and unrealistic. But when a 9-year-old girl named Jania, living in a car with her grandmother, died from carbon monoxide poisoning while trying to stay warm, the city snapped. Citizens marched. Churches opened their basements. Artists auctioned their work to raise funds. Hollywood joined in, not just with checks, but with land and visibility. Within a year, Project New Ground launched its first microvillage on unused public land in South Central, complete with solar-powered shelters, healthcare access, and community-run kitchens. Marcus was one of the first residents. He got a job again, training young men in carpentry and helping build more units. He reconnected with his daughter, who visited him and brought his grandson. For the first time in a decade, Marcus had a key, a door, a roof, a future. In the real world, no such swift resolution has come. Homelessness in Los Angeles remains a deep-rooted crisis shaped by a housing shortage, economic inequality, addiction, and decades of policy failures. Still, stories like Marcus aren't fiction. They're real every day, happening in shelters, corners, and nonprofit offices. The fictional ending is a vision of what could be, a system that sees people not as problems to move but as citizens to restore. As Marcus looked out at the Los Angeles skyline from his modest but warm room in the microvillage, he whispered a phrase he hadn't used in years. "I'm going home, not to a mansion, not to a dream, but to something real and finally his." Even as Project New Ground began to change lives, the fight was far from over. Media outlets picked up Marcus' story, how a man who once slept under freeway bridges was now mentoring others and building hope one shelter at a time. He was invited to speak at city halls, community forums, and even on late-night television. But not everyone welcomed the program's success. Opposition came from multiple fronts. Some homeowners in upscale neighborhoods feared their property values would drop. Local politicians, worried about re-election optics, claimed the program was attracting more homeless people from out of state. And private developers, many of whom had long lobbied to keep large tracts of LA unaffordable, filed lawsuits to stop further land allocation for temporary villages. But Marcus and others like him refused to stay silent. Temporary? Marcus once said during a rally, "You call living in a car for 10 years temporary? You call burying friends who froze to death a phase?" Project New Ground responded by going mobile, launching converted buses into wellness centers and creating job training trucks that could drive straight into encampments. The movement was no longer centralized. It was everywhere. Grassroots coalitions began forming in San Diego, Oakland, and Phoenix, inspired by what was unfolding in LA. Still, each small step came with large setbacks. Corrupt, contracting scandals emerged. One shelter collapsed during a windstorm due to poor construction. And when a man with severe schizophrenia caused a public disturbance in the village, it gave media critics a fresh reason to condemn the program. But the people didn't give up. Within the microvillage that Marcus now helped lead, a sense of dignity began to return. Jasmine, a 19-year-old transgender woman who had fled abuse in Mississippi, found hormone therapy and safety for the first time. A Big Ron, a 61-year-old ex-Marine who battled PTSD, helped run the on-site garden, which now fed dozens. A Maria, a single mother of 3, studied for her GED while her kids played safely in a tent school under solar lights. Each of them had stories once hidden behind the word homeless. Now they were neighbors, workers, poets, artists. Marcus taught them how to hold a hammer, but more importantly, how to hold on to hope. The microvillage even had a name now, Horizon Ground. It wasn't perfect. There were fights, relapses, evictions, but it was real and working. And as more people visited Horizon Ground, opinions began to shift. On the 2-year anniversary of the village's founding, Marcus stood on a wooden podium built by the residents themselves. Journalists, city officials, and formerly homeless families sat in front of him. His daughter, now a nurse in San Jose, stood proudly in the front row. He cleared his throat and looked into the cameras. "I want America to hear this, not just LA, not just California, but the entire country. Homelessness isn't a stain on society. It's the proof that we've failed to care. But here's the good news. Care can be rebuilt, just like homes. Don't just move people out of sight. Move them into sight. Don't just pity us, partner with us. I used to be invisible. Now I'm here, not because I got lucky, but because someone believed I was still worth saving." The crowd rose in applause, not for a miracle but for a model. As of 2025, the real Los Angeles continues to battle homelessness with limited but notable progress. New affordable housing units are being built, and public pressure has forced deeper investment into mental health care and housing-first policies. Yet, the numbers remain high. The crisis is complex, and no single program has solved it all. But if fiction can do anything, it's to remind us what's possible. The tent cities still stretch across parts of LA. The freeway underpasses still echo with the quiet dreams of the forgotten. But among the noise, one voice rises. Marcus, telling us, we're not looking for charity, we're looking for a chance. And in the heart of America's homelessness capital, that chance is finally being built. One key, one soul, one sunrise at a time.